The desert sun blazed over Fort Harrison, a sprawling base carved out of miles of dust and pride. The morning air shimmered with heat and routine, soldiers in formation, Humvees rolling past, gate guards snapping to attention as vehicles approached. It was just another Tuesday, until a black SUV pulled up to the gate. Inside sat a woman in her mid-30s, short hair under a plain ball cap, no visible rank, just calm eyes that had seen more than most battle-hardened men on that base. The guard, Private Miller, stepped forward and squinted. "Ma'am, this is a restricted installation. I'm going to need to see your military ID." She smiled, patient but quiet. Of course. She reached into her jacket and handed it over. Miller studied it, frowned, then glanced at her civilian clothes. "This says Colonel Alexandra Hayes. But, this id's expired, ma'am." "It's not expired," she said simply. "It was reissued 2 days ago." "Check the date again." He blinked. "Well, the format's different. Looks new." The second guard, Specialist Torres, leaned in. "Hey, Miller, don't get nervous. Probably just one of those civilians trying to bluff their way in." "Ma'am, you visiting someone on base?" Hayes' voice remained calm. "I'm reporting for duty." Torres laughed. "Reporting for duty? Dressed like that?" He gestured toward her jeans and gray jacket. "No offense, but this ain't exactly uniform of the day." "I travel light," she replied, holding her gaze steady. "Now, if you'll let me through." "Ma'am, I can't do that," Miller interrupted, shifting nervously. "You'll need a military escort or prior clearance. No one told us to expect any colonel." Hayes tilted her head slightly, her tone level but sharp enough to cut through the static. "Did you check your morning roster?" Not really. Sarge just said expect inspections this week." "That's right," Hayes said softly, "and I'm part of that inspection." The guards exchanged glances. Torres leaned toward his radio. "Let me call this in." Before he could, a convoy of jeeps rolled past, their dust kicking into the air. A few soldiers saluted, thinking nothing of the black SUV stalled at the gate. Miller shifted again, embarrassed. "Ma'am, we're just doing our jobs. Orders are orders." Hayes nodded. "I know. You're protecting your post. I respect that. But if you radio the base commander, he'll confirm who I am." Torres frowned. "Our commander? You mean Colonel?" "Colonel Evans retired last week," she interrupted. "As of 0900 today, Fort Harrison's new commanding officer is Colonel Alexandra Hayes." Silence. The air seemed to stop moving. Miller's mouth opened, then closed. "Wait, you're the new CO?" She gave a small nod. Torres laughed nervously. "You're kidding, right? We were told the new commander was some war hero from Task Force Valor. A combat officer." Hayes looked at him squarely. "That's right." It took a beat before the realization sank in. Miller's eyes widened. You're that Colonel Hayes. The one from Kandahar." She exhaled quietly. "That's me." Torres paled. "Holy, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, we just didn't." Hayes raised a hand, stopping him. "Relax, Specialist. You did your job. That's what I want from every soldier on this base. You followed procedure. Don't apologize for doing your duty." Miller swallowed hard. "Still, ma'am, we should have recognized you. They told stories about you. The convoy ambush, the rescue op. Stories grow taller than truth," she said, stepping out of the SUV. "I prefer to be known for running a disciplined command." She glanced toward the gate office. "Now, if you gentlemen would clear the way, I've got a base to take charge of." They scrambled to open the barrier. As she drove through, Miller whispered to Torres, "Man, we just stopped our own commander at the gate." Torres muttered back, "Yeah, and lived to tell about it." "Guess that's something. Inside the base, news spread fast. The civilian woman at the gate had turned out to be their new CO. By the time she reached headquarters, whispers were everywhere, about her past, her medals, her reputation for reshaping broken units into steel. She parked, stepped out, and walked across the parade ground where dozens of soldiers paused mid-drill. She nodded to a few but didn't stop. Inside the HQ building, the senior NCO, Sergeant Major Dalton, stood waiting. A grizzled veteran with more years in service than most officers had in rank, Dalton straightened up as she entered. "Colonel Hayes," he said with a salute. "Welcome to Fort Harrison, ma'am." She returned it crisply. "Sergeant Major." Good to see a familiar face. He smiled faintly. Didn't expect you'd come in through the front gate like that. Neither did they, she replied dryly. But it was a good first test. Dalton chuckled. Gate guards didn't know what hit him, I bet. They followed orders, she said. That's what matters. I'd rather have overcautious soldiers than careless ones. He nodded. You'll fit in fine here, ma'am. Basie's been a little loose since Evans left. That's about to change, she said. She walked to the window overlooking the training grounds. Soldiers moved like clockwork below, but she could see the gaps, the lack of urgency, the easy posture of a unit that hadn't been tested in a while. Hayes turned back. Tomorrow, I want every officer, NCO, and squad leader in the briefing room at 0600. We'll review readiness reports, logistics, and field proficiency. Dalton grinned. You're not wasting any time. Time's a luxury, Sergeant Major. We've got deployment evaluations next month. This unit needs to move as one again. He nodded. Roger that, ma'am. Later that afternoon, Hayes visited the motor pool, the mess, and the training range, quietly observing, talking to privates, shaking hands, learning names. Everywhere she went, soldiers straightened up a little taller when they realized who she was. By sunset, she returned to her office. A folder lay on her desk, personnel reports, budget summaries, deployment rosters. Then came a knock at the door. It was Private Miller and Specialist Torres. Both stood stiff as boards. Come in, she said. They entered hesitantly. Colonel Hayes, ma'am, Miller said, we just wanted to apologize again. For earlier. Hayes leaned back in her chair. I already told you, no apology needed. Torres fidgeted. Still, ma'am, we should have known. You don't look like most commanders we've seen. She smiled slightly. Good. Maybe that's the problem. They blinked, unsure how to respond. Hayes continued, what matters is how you handle what you don't know. You questioned, you checked, you stayed firm. That's discipline. Don't lose that just because someone outranks you. Yes, ma'am, they said in unison. Now, she said, standing, report to the briefing hall tomorrow. You'll both be part of my new security evaluation team. Miller's jaw dropped. Ma'am, us. You stopped your commanding officer at the gate, Hayes said. That tells me you take security seriously. I want that mindset on my team. Torres broke into a grin. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. As they left, Dalton appeared in the doorway, amused. You just made those two the most motivated soldiers on this base. Hayes smiled faintly. Good. They earned it. Dalton nodded. Fort Harrison's in good hands again. Hayes looked out at the fading sunset over the desert. Not yet, she said. But it will be.